It's Ebro in the morning. It's Hot 97. Laura Stiles, Rosenberg, and President, CEO, Reverend Lennox Yearwood is on the program. Give it up for him right now.
Good morning.
I almost gave you a doctorate right off the top.
I didn't know you even had that. I didn't know you had that power to give me.
Who knew?
Do it.
You are with the Hip Hop Caucus.
I am.
For those that didn't even know that there was a Hip Hop Caucus, how long has this been happening?
Hip Hop Caucus has been around since 2004. I mean, it was a collective from 2003 and 4. You had Jay-Z's Voice Your Choice. You had Diddy's Citizen Change, which was Vote or Die, and Russell Simmons' Hip Hop Summit Action Network. And then they all merged to create the caucus.
Got it. And then Respect My Vote now, this has been around for a little bit now, too.
It has. When we did Vote or Die in 2004,
right.
And then from there, we went into Respect My Vote, which was kind of the first time around with President Obama, but we wanted to have our own thing for hip-hop and really engage with ex-offenders. So it was really powerful, and then really getting all the artists and media engaged in the process. So it's where we are right now. So it's an important point for us to be making sure we share the information and that we shape policy.
You being as active as you are with registering people to vote, having the conversation around politics, the candidates, what do you feel and see is happening with young people right now? Like, I obviously see a lot of young people, first-time voters, 18, 19-year-olds, fresh out of high school, first year in college, very passionate about Bernie Sanders and the things that he's saying, which I think is amazing. What are you seeing?
I mean, I see that as well. I mean, one of the things we want to make sure for this election is that we don't want the numbers to go down. So in 2008...
And why would they?
Well, I mean, we had President Obama running for office, right, in 2008 and 2012. And so people were excited about that for a variety of reasons. One, it was the first African-American president. And so you're also young and kind of hip, and so people were excited about that process.
Jeezy making records,
Jeezy,
it was Beyonce's there.
The whole 9 yards.
It's true.
All factors.
No, it was important. So you have those factors involved, and then the next step from that, after Obama, which is now 2016, which is to me one of the most critical elections of our time. I mean, I kind of wish we almost could rehash Vote or Die because if ever you want a slogan, Respect My Vote is clear and very important. Respect my vote because it's personal.
With the way Trump is talking, it is Vote or Die.
Could be.
It is. It is. It really is Vote or Die and Respect My Vote at the same time. We should probably put them both at the same time.
At the same damn time. Throw the damn. I know you can't say the damn. You're a reverend.
That's it. We're gonna
say it.
You're gonna fill the blanks in for me in the process. But that's where we are. And I think young folks are excited. They've been excited, but I think they're excited because they recognize that, our parents, fought for equality in the 20th century. But this generation in the 21st century is fighting for existence, like literally life or death. Black Lives Matter, literally climate change, education, prisons. So they know that it's gone from equality to existence.
I saw Mayor de Blasio doing an interview on MSNBC, and he said this will be the first time in voting history that 18, 19, 20-year-olds that could vote are literally voting to not have a better life than their parents did. After the financial crisis that we just saw, kids voting right now, young people, I'm calling them kids, but people fresh out of high school, know that their future financially will be worse potentially than their parents. They are more frugal with their money. They are more conscious of their bills. They have climate challenges. We have, obviously, things that we're finding out about, Richard Nixon AIDS coming out, talking about, the war on drugs really being a war on black people. So they're seeing things that have been, quote, unquote, conspiracies in black households and neighborhoods actually coming to be true in their lifetime. And now it's up to them to vote. I've never seen anything like a Donald Trump before. I've never seen this.
Well, we've had some.
I've seen some extreme people say some extreme things.
Never leading like this. I mean, we've had some extreme people leading.
We've had David Duke run for president.
But David Duke never made a major impact, right? He was a joke almost from the outset in any normal states. No disrespect. But if you were a state that showed any respect for David Duke, that was insane. Because as far as I know, he never even had a percentage that was Certainly
Yeah.
never came near winning a primary, right?
No, he wasn't. I mean, you had somebody like even like Ron Paul. Ron Paul actually was cool with some of his issues, but I
Yeah,
mean,
of
even
course.
like Ron Paul, he wasn't taken as seriously as
And Ron
Trump.
Paul was a million times more legit than Donald Trump.
I mean, but that's the thing though. So this is where we are. So the reality is that if we don't vote in this election, picture this November 9th. Whoever you don't want to win that office is now in that position. And so this is that moment now where literally we're fighting for, I mean, for those fighting for gay rights, those fighting for immigration rights, those fighting for, Black Lives Matter, those fighting for education, healthcare, all those things right now. I mean, this is that moment now for our generation. Like literally, I said before, this is our, like lunch counter moment. Like this is our moment now when if we don't step up, we're going to look back 20 years from now and be like, man.
I didn't do anything. I just sat there.
I just sat there.
Now, and also, we need to be clear because a lot of people don't understand how the presidential situation can affect you. And sometimes with good reason. They say, local politics affects me more. What do I need to worry about the president? In this specific circumstance, because they are going to do everything to not allow Obama to get Garland in the Supreme Court, there's a good chance that it will end up being delayed until the next president has to be the one who gets the next Supreme Court justice. This justice has the chance to affect all law throughout America.
By the way, a Supreme Court justice job is for life.
It's for life.
For life.
So if that seat goes to someone that potentially agrees with the likes of those controlling the Senate and the House right now, right? And maybe is falling in line with conservatism and maybe agreeing with some of the things Trump says, that individual sits in that chair for life.
So this situation in particular, we need to get and that's why ultimately, whether you're Bernie or whether you're Hillary, at some point, which in all likelihood it'll be Hillary, you got to get on board, if nothing else, because of this Supreme Court justice. You could disagree with other things if you want.
Well, I would even say the success of Bernie Sanders, right? If Hillary's campaign is smart, the success of Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders kicks Hillary's ass with people 30 years and younger.
Yep.
Kicks her ass, right? If she's smart, not only does she figure out a way or potentially figure out a way to bring Bernie in, if she doesn't, she goes maybe with somebody super young and cool to kind of give her some young cool factor. She sees his platform and goes, you know what? We need to make sure some of this shit happens because that's the future. The future of our country is telling us that they like what Bernie Sanders is talking about.
But, one thing I want to say to that,
true.
Joe. No, I want to say one thing to that. I agree with you, but my only fear about with Bernie and Hillary, and even from Trump or Cruz, is that even with Obama, when he won, there are a lot of things that he didn't move on until in other words, I always feel uncomfortable when they think they got us, right? I don't want us to be endorsing them. I want them to endorse us. I want them to say, no, not that we're with them, but we're with hip hop. I want them to have that kind of mentality because we were with Obama. I was in a situation when Bush was in office. Listen, I got arrested a lot of times at the White House. I never thought I would get arrested at the White House for Obama. I mean, this is going to be 8 years. I'm never going to get arrested. But sure enough, when there was things that he wasn't pushing on, even when he mentioned, okay, people in Baltimore were thugs and certain things, we got arrested because we want to make sure he knows that while we're with you, there's an inside-outside game to this process. So I think it's for us to make sure that we get folks excited, not so much about the politician, because we don't want people to be like, I'm with Bernie, and then Bernie falls back, and then we like, well, I'm not with Hillary, or whatever side you may be on. That would be, that actually is part of the plan, because then we don't have that power. We need to get our communities plus down the ticket so that it ain't for just the president, but we know like from Ferguson, it's for the prosecutor. Or we know from,
Prosecutors are important.
Or it is judges, you know what I'm saying? Like Trayvon Martin. So we know that it could be the dog catcher. Dog catchers are important too. Dog catchers on the ballot as well. We want to make sure everybody on that
That's
ticket.
crazy. I never even thought about dog catcher.
Is that legitimately on a ballot still?
Is on in certain places. They vote for the dog catcher.
Frankly, free dogs. I don't see why we need a dog catcher. Let the dogs out. Now, just
I don't know. I've been in some of these
We have little dogs.
neighborhoods.
Yeah, well, no.
These dogs, they need some guidance.
No. By the way, but that shouldn't be the dog catcher. That should be the owner catcher.
That's right.
Because what happened to the? Why is the dog?
run
Who
loose?
let the? Dare I mention the Baja men? Who let the dogs out? Now, yeah. But here's the thing, Reverend. I don't understand. Like, even for me and Ebro and people who are paying a lot of attention, and Laura, and people who know, I still don't know how to really have the time or energy when I look at that ballot to know about the prosecutors, and it's so much information. That's a really hard thing to even hope and
But
expect.
that's how they get you.
You're right, and I don't know how you change that.
And that's how they get you through fatigue and just wearing you down where you're like, whatever, right? You can't do that. That's how they get you because
That's what they do.
I firmly believe that that's what they do. I firmly believe that many of our processes with voting and putting people in power are made overly cumbersome so that only a select few who have the time and energy, usually people with money, right, that don't work as much as you and I, have the time to devote to understanding these platforms and perspectives. I feel like that's done on purpose. It's made complicated on purpose.
Yeah, no, I mean it is. Let me say this: when we were probably growing up, we all remember.
It's part of the weeding out process.
No, it is. Remember when we were growing up, we had Schoolhouse Rocks, and you'd be like, "I'm only your bill, and I'm sitting on Capitol Hill."
That's right. Verb. That's what's happening.
I mean, that was the
was
key.
my joint.
That was hot, and we were looking at it on Saturday mornings and learn all about politics, about a bill and the whole nine. That's been taken away, right? And then also civics in schools have been taken out. So
Really?
no, you can't even get civics. It's like an elective. You have to in some schools it's not there at all. And some schools you got to choose to be in part of civic
They
engagement.
don't want you to understand what's happening.
But that's the key because that
Major key.
But if we know that, so this is where we come in at because then we have to use our cultural expression to shape our political experience. This is how we make voting to some degree sexy. We make voting fun, and that's what we got to use our culture, use this form, so that when people hear about it, then they know, okay, that's not for somebody else. That's for me. You know what I mean? So that's why this is such an important forum to have this discussion.
And for those listening to this conversation, watching this, I am not a registered Republican, and I am not a registered Democrat. I'm a registered independent. I don't even get to participate in the primaries. And I'm that way because I don't subscribe to, I have to be a part of one of the other parties. I want to sit back and see who the best overall person is going to be, right? And understand what's going to be the best for where our country is currently at today. And I believe our country, if we are not smart, if we're not aware of what's happening internationally, is in a dangerous place where the world economy could easily leave us behind, right? Where we aren't graduating more scientists, we're not graduating more engineers. That's happening in other parts of the globe. The people who are designing our future through medicine, through the environment, a lot of that is happening in other countries because we're not investing in our country and in our young people and in our public school system to prepare them for the jobs of tomorrow. And I also believe that's because rich people keep their money in other countries and they only come to America, right, as a place to do whatever they want when they want, because some of the financial behavior of rich people in America is not allowed in other countries. So they come here, make a bunch of money, and then take the money somewhere else. And they don't reinvest in the low-income, middle-class kids that could potentially be the leaders of tomorrow.
I agree 100%. I'm so glad you mentioned that you could be an independent, which is so important, that you can choose to who you want to vote for in that process. One of the folks...
I just wanted to know, registering to vote doesn't mean you got to pick a side.
No, you don't. Matter of fact, again, you have to be... I think that people understand that voting is your vote. You're part of the process. So when you talk about respect my vote, it's about you. It's not about anybody else. It's about you. One of the folks who I recently talked to who's coming, we've had a lot of folks involved, and clearly this is what's so important. So Vic Mensa, right? So Vic Mensa, this will be his first time voting. And so, but he's super duper excited about the process. I mean, he's like, I'm going to vote. So he didn't vote before, but he's like, I'm going to vote. I'm excited. And so he's working out so that his...
And by the way, he's 21?
Something like that.
Yeah, so the last time voting happened, he was probably still too young.
He was still too young, which makes me feel kind of old, but in that process. But one of the things for him is that he's going to be using his mixtape. So that if you want to get his mixtape, you got hey, you pledge to vote. So when artists do that, that's your point about keeping it current. When artists do that and we make it part of the fashion and we do it, we got to make sure this is not the time when we can be as a movement or as a culture siloed or segregated. We can't. This ain't the time for turfs. Well, this is your side. This is that side. Because again,
I'm glad you said that because I know one of your spokespeople, Charlemagne. You know, and I wanted to make sure y'all came up here, even though a lot of times, you know, people think, oh, it's, you know, y'all competition going at each other, beef, whatever. But voting and things of, you know, that are important to community and young people, I don't believe that's partisan, right? Like, I don't believe that we should be on sides. So, you know, I'm glad you brought that up because even here, we're like, yo.
Well, it's funny you actually bring that up. So this is what I want to ask you about. Maybe you could help me with this. So last week, not knowing about your campaign or anything, last week I was sitting there watching the election results, and I was just like having another night where I'm like, this is insane.
Yep.
I can't believe what's happening right now. And I said to my wife, I was like, you know what? I was just thinking about what I could do that could actually be impactful. And I was like, I want to reach out to Charlemagne because I was trying to think about what I could do that would be impactful personally. And I thought, him and I don't agree on damn near anything and have never had a fantastic relationship, to put it mildly.
You agree on some social,
I'm
political,
sure, of course,
but like
of course, there's some political
internal business
Yes.
stuff.
But it's all radio. It's not life. It's not important. It's radio stuff. So I thought, what could I do that would make an impact? So I was like, I think I want to reach out to him and say, let's take a look. And if this Trump thing continues to really be something that's for real, which is increasingly becomes more and more, maybe we could get together and do something for raising voter awareness.
Most definitely. I mean,
But here's the thing.
definitely.
So then I texted him. I have his number. I texted him, and I emailed him and gave him the suggestion and did not hear back. This was like
Maybe
a week.
he changed his number.
Maybe he did, and his email. Who knows? But I sent that like a week and a half ago. But I thought it was a strong thing that, like, you were talking about reaching young people, because like I have a voice. He has a voice. We have similar audiences. We have different
And
audiences.
I think it would be impactful too for people who feel
because people
like,
know that we publicly don't like each other, right?
Yep.
So to say our radio stuff is utterly unimportant. Let's do an event where we go together and we do a thing, and you can come there and register to vote, whatever the thing is. I think that could make an impact. I think we could actually reach some people. So maybe you could help deliver that message. We could see if we get it done.
Well, let me say this to y'all, all of y'all. First of all, that to me is so important. As somebody who's an activist, right? As somebody who's in those streets, who's been at a lot of the funerals, you know, when this is not, none of this is a part of it. You out there, you literally burying folks who've been shot, or folks who've got asthma attacks, or you've done that. Then when you come here, all this is in perspective. So first of all, to commend y'all, thank y'all, because I think that's what we really want. Not only just across radio, but across labels too as well. Because the same thing here, so is on Atlantic, so is on here. And so we want to make sure that happens. But to your point, I'll make sure that happens. And regardless if that can happen or not, I mean, clearly the goal for this is to give this platform and your platform the same process as needs to happen. Now, let me say this about Charlemagne, and this so people know what that's about. That's clear. Is that in 2008 we had T.I., and one of the reasons we want to, this part of the key thing about this campaign is ex-offenders. And so we want to make sure that people who know who are those in our have communities have records that they can vote. So we had T.I. in 2008. Then we had 2 Chainz in 2012. And so Charlemagne is an ex-offender. So we wanted to then, again, reinforce that. And so that doesn't mean that we don't have it like we had Future and everybody else adds on to the process. Same thing now.
Yeah, I can represent the part of if you literally have the squeakiest, cleanest,
There it is.
nerdiest
No,
record
there
there
you go.
is.
So
You can also still vote.
That's important. But we want those definitely to know on both sides, because that's what's important.
No,
I mean,
that is very important, because there's a lot of people who are pushed out of this process who don't think they can vote. First of all, you have the fact that felons cannot vote, right?
well, no. Felons, just the thing. There you go. That's the whole point.
So when did it change? Certain felons can?
No, in most states, felons can. So actually, we're working on.
That's just, there's a period and a process that they have to go through to make sure that they
Exactly.
can vote.
'Cause
it's made, once again, difficult.
Exactly.
So that
Yeah.
felons don't. And then I'll
Tyson
take
told
it-
me he can't vote, though. Do you think, I mean, maybe he didn't do the thing, but Tyson told me he couldn't vote. I mean, maybe it's the state. Maybe in Nevada he can't vote.
Maybe it's his state, yeah.
Nevada.
But now it's just two. I think it's just now. It's just. I'm pretty sure it's just Florida and Kentucky. I will make sure. FreedomMyVote.com. We're gonna have that whole listing and that whole breakdown for that. But to your point, I think the point here is exactly that. They try to make this process so difficult.
They.
And
Make
it's the same they that did mass incarceration.
They.
And it was the same they that the war on drugs was the war on blacks.
Ah.
And do you think the theys also knew when they said they were afraid of black people and they started this whole thing, that they knew that black men having the ability to vote would be a threat to they power and control?
I mean, that's the key, right?
Major key.
I mean, that's what we're dealing with. And I mean, and that's
Gems.
I
being
mean, that's
dropped.
one of the things there is that we got to make sure that our folks are educated on that process because even if they are discouraged. Let me say this about Flint, for example. Like, and we know what happened in Flint with the water, right? Flint was crazy, and Governor Snyder should resign or even worse in that process, be held accountable for what happened. But this is the thing, in 2015, when we look at who voted, they had, out of those who could vote, who registered to vote in Flint, only 18%, less than 18% voted in that election. I mean, 82% of the people stayed home. That means that you got folks who either don't care, and clearly they know the water situation is going on, or they're just broken. They just don't think their voice matters.
Flint, I think 60% of the population of Flint lives below the poverty line. So
Exactly.
broken, frustrated,
Yep.
giving up might have been some of or a lot of those individuals' reality.
And that's what we got to change because we need to go in there and then tell them and help because the only way we can really get rid of a Governor Snyder is by the ballot box. That's the one time you either hire or fire somebody. Now you can do the repeal and that whole process, but that's how we make it happen. And that's why this is such an important. First of all, y'all don't know how excited I am because I think so many times in this process people do keep their piece going, and they don't have no idea how important it is. This election right here is important not only for 2016, but for 2116. 100 years from now, when none of us are here, they're gonna look back. And gonna be like, unless you find some really good drugs.
I'm gonna be here.
That's what I'm saying. Figure out a way to be prop up in the corner,
make it.
a little jar, and a little jar.
I'm not leaving.
Time capsule.
A little time capsule. But in 2116, none of us will be here. But what will be here is what we do with this power behind this mic and our platform, and how we organize and mobilize our people. That's the thing here, because it truly is life or death, and truly is people are if. Either we shape policy or policy shapes you. And in this situation right now, that if we don't get it together as a culture, and matter of fact, today we actually, one of the campaigns we did Hip Hop Caucus was with Fife, right? We actually did a healthcare. It was Ma Dukes, Jay Dilla's mom, and Fife. And we went around doing the healthcare process, fighting for healthcare. And I never forget when I was with Fife, because we connected, because my parents are from the Caribbean, and so we connected on different levels on that piece. And I never forget, he was sick then with diabetes, but he was walking through the hall. He was like, man, they're walking through the halls of Congress. He was tripping on it. He said, man, Rev, you got me walking through the halls of Congress. And, it was just funny because his voice and the whole nine.
And he really he seemed to always enjoy any moments like that.
He was like walking through the halls, and it was amazing. But then when I looked at it, I said, man, your words, about the idea of Mr. Dinkins being mayor, right? idea of having a black mayor was amazing. You put those lyrics together, and then later on, we got a black mayor. Then we got a black president. Then we got a black governor. So I told him that when you put those words into space, they create something that then we come behind. So what we now put out here into the space that listen, this election, we are going to increase the voter turnout. We are going to do everything we can. Yeah, we don't have no Obama, but we got us. And so this year we're gonna come together. We're gonna squash things. We're gonna mend things.
Love it.
At least for 8 months.
I'm glad you put a time limit on the squash. Let's get back to this fresh.
So at least at November 8th, November 9th, everything's back on. But up to the 8th, we're gonna squash to empower our people in that way.
His name is Reverend Lennox Yearwood. Respect My Vote campaign, the Hip Hop Caucus. Is there a Instagram? Is there a Twitter? How do people get involved, find y'all, or even invite you specifically to speak to their young people?
No, they can reach me at Rev Yearwood on Twitter, but more importantly, you can go to respectmyvote.com to get all the information we talked about the policies, about ex-offenders, that whole piece. And then after the election, because when we go to the 8th, it would be nice, it'd be all peaceful. And after the 9th, and whatever is going to happen. But on the 9th, hiphopcaucus.org, we want to make sure in that process people can still go there, because we want to hold whoever's in office accountable, because they're going to hear from us regardless.
I know you're 18, you're 19, 21, maybe it's your first chance to vote, and you're confused as to whether or not your vote matters, or you are wondering what the issues are. You don't understand the platform, or I don't know what may be inhibiting you in your mind from going out to vote. Voting is the one thing that we have in this country that really empowers the individual, the community, the families, and things like that for you to get out and really be passionate about something you believe in. So just please use that, and always remember, whether it was black people, whether it was women in this country, people died got their ass beat in the street for you to have a chance to voice your opinion at the ballot box. Like, it's not, they call me old man, but don't take it lightly, right? Just do not take these opportunities lightly. And even on the things that happen locally or the things that come around every 2 years and you feel that's more personal to you and your local community, just get out there and exercise your rights, man, as an American.
That's it.
And just give it up for the Reverend Lennox Yearwood on Ebro in the morning.